Okay, everybody. Tim from Timber Visions here, and today got to do a little upkeep on the old G660. If you're unfamiliar with this type of saw, this is a Chinese knockoff of a steel 066 or a 660. It's adjustable carburetor. It's nothing fancy. It's basically the patent wore out on the 660, and then anybody can make it. And you can put OEM parts right on these saws. It'll fit exactly the same as the original. And man, it's been a while since I have taken this bar and chain off and cleaned out underneath here, so it's definitely due for it. Quite a bit of goo and such right there. I'm going to take this over to the compressor and blow it off. I will be right back. Alright, so since I had been using this as a chainsaw milling saw, I had taken the felling spikes off. That's what these things are. Because it just gave me more cutting width when I was doing chainsaw milling, because otherwise this cuts into the amount that you can cut at once. So I had taken these off. Well, I'm going to put them back on because there's some times when I'm cutting and it's like, I wish I had my felling spikes on here to help bite in a little bit. Kind of helps make a straighter cut too, because it digs in and gives a nice reference point for the bar to follow. That makes sense. Kind of cold out today, so I have no feeling in the tips of my fingers. So it'll be nice. And then I'll also have my chain guard here too then. If the chain were to fly off, it kind of gives the chain something to slap up against instead of flying back and killing me. I know I'm being a little dramatic there, but you get the idea. But now I'll have those spikes there. And I believe I have these here that go on the other side. And I was smart and saved my bolts. So I'll put that one on and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is what it looks like with those reinstalled. So that chain guard thing, it locks into the other side. So you got something nice and beefy there to kind of dig into the bark and torque on it while you're cutting. So now I had already blown this all out. Got that all clean. So last time it was on upside down. This time I'll put it on the right side up. That's just how I do it. I alternate each time. Alright, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get the old Dynaglow heater turned on out here because my freaking fingers are freezing. If somebody ever invented a glove where I still had dexterity to do things and still wear gloves, and then those gloves would also keep my fingers warm, because they make gloves that get pretty good dexterity. Like these, you get pretty good dexterity with these, but they really don't keep your fingers warm anymore. than being barehanded. I just have a little bit better dexterity with bare hands. So I don't tighten these nuts up all the way. I leave them a little bit loose yet. And I'm just tightening up my chain. And this is where it can be kind of tricky. You need to make sure that you're in the groove of the bar, which I am. And you kind of want to run that chain. Sometimes it won't be totally on the sprocket, and you get the chain all tightened up, and then you run it a little bit like that, and then you find out that, well, I wasn't actually in the sprocket grooves all the way. So on a long bar like this, if you have new chain, I tighten the crap out of it. But with it not being a new chain, I just kind of get it nice and snug. And I hold up on the bar while I tighten these nuts down, because that's where it's going to end up wanting to go anyway, to where it will stop on the upward, because you put downward pressure on it most of the time. You don't have to get crazy tight on these, but good and tight works pretty good. And you want that to be able to spin freely like that. On a steel chainsaw bar, you don't have to worry about this, because they don't have grease zerks at the end here, or greasing points. But these aftermarket ones sometimes do. Alright. Yeah, it's on the other side. So there's a spot here to put a little bit of grease. I'll bring you in closer so you can see that. Alright, so this spot right here is a grease spot. So I'll grab my little greaser and we'll grease that up. So this is it, the Push and Lube by Oregon. That's what I use. And basically it's just a little pointed end like that. And you stick it into that hole, and you have to have it this direction, straight up and down. And when you press it, it actually pushes grease into that hole. And I'll lift this up, turn it around a little bit. So now that tip has been greased, that sprocket. That's basically what we're wanting to grease, is that sprocket. All right, so that's all I have for the maintenance on this. Kind of feeling here what my sharpness feels like, and it feels pretty good. So these little points, if it feels like a cat claw, you're sharp. And I believe I sharpened this up fairly recently, so I'm good on that. So we should be able to be ready to go rip some wood now. I might want to check my depth gauge though. It's been a while since I've done that on this one, so I will get my depth gauge checker and we'll do that. All right, so I want to be very clear that I'm not like a pro at using this thing, but this is the one I got from West Coast Saws. And you set it in there like that, and you can feel that there's a little bit of edge there. So you just kind of go, and that brings that down. Then you get to this one, and then you have to move to the other side, see? right here. I always do the further back one because I just want to keep them good. I don't need it super aggressive. See what I'm saying? If I go to that front one, it's going to be really aggressive and take a lot of it off. And I don't need that much off. This is a plenty strong saw. It cuts plenty good. I just need to take a little bit off. That's all there is to it. I hope that makes sense. If you want a really good video of how this thing's supposed to be used, I would go to the West Coast Saws YouTube channel. But all that's doing is take a little bit off my depth gauge, and I don't think I've ever taken any off of these. So it is in need of some depth gauge taken off. Some people will just grind a little bit off or file a little bit off each one, but it's nice to actually use a gauge. So you don't take too much or off, or you make sure you take enough off. So that's all there is to it. You can tell the ones I've done, they're nice and shiny, and then the other ones are pretty dull. I don't know how well it's going to show up in the video, but I'm going to finish doing these and I'll be back. All right, so now that I have this chainsaw ready to rock and roll, I can go put it in some wood. When I had blew it all out with the air compressor and everything, I went ahead and cleaned under here, the air cleaner and everything. So she should be ready to rock and roll. Basically, just want to blow all the crevices and stuff out. Try to get it as clean as possible. I mean, you're just going to get it dirty again, but every once in a while, I just need to clean things up. Doesn't hurt it at all. Actually, it's to your advantage. So, I got a big log that I need to put this thing into. So if you stick with me, go over the wood lot. We're gonna cut some big rounds with this big saw. Okay, so I wanna give some starting tips on these saws. Steel clones or steel saw. Some guys always have a problem with flooding them. So on the back here, you get the switch. All the way up is off. Then there's a middle position and a down position, but you gotta squeeze the trigger while you push it to the down position, okay? So that's where you started at. And it's locking the throttle on while you do that. So there's a decompression on top. Push that. So as soon as it pops, sometimes it'll just pop and it won't start. You need to move it to the middle position at that point. If you do not, the next pull, you'll flood it. So just let her warm up for a while here, and we'll get the cut. So judging by the cutting speed there, that chain definitely needs touched up. But we got some nice, beautiful, huge rounds to make some firewood out of. Get these all lined up and ready for the tractor mounted splitter to work the next stage. Oh man, so grab it. Oh. All right. Next stage will be the old tractor mounted splitter. Break them up into chunks a guy can pick up. That log was just, I mean, imagine having those things on my super split. That would not be a good time. So like I was saying, that that chain definitely not as sharp as it should be. So I'll have to touch that up a little bit. But the nice thing about a large displacement chainsaw, it will still cut with a dull chain. Not as good, but it'll still cut it. No replacement for displacement. So that's why I keep that saw around. I don't think I would buy another big saw like that. It's very specific use. Like a 60, 70 cc saw, you can do a lot of different things with. With that thing, you're not going to be carrying around, bucking up a whole bunch of logs. Even standing at the bucking table with that thing would get old after a while because it weighs like, with that big bar on there, it's got to be close to 25, 30 pounds, something like that. Which when you're cutting big rounds like I was doing here, the way that saw just, you don't have to push, it just, the way the saw cuts it through. But this is some really nice ash. It's gonna make a lot of good bundle wood. Because I have one tote that you can see off here to the right maybe. This tote right there. Yeah. That tote, it's like a little over half full. I need to finish that off. And I bet with these 3 big rounds, I'll pretty much finish off that tote. And make a little bit of regular heating wood also with the outside of it. But yeah, these big rounds, they yield a lot of bundle wood because there's so much barkless stuff inside of it. So that will be another time, another video. I just wanted to get this thing cut up. It's been on in my crosshairs for a while now. Yeah, I finally got it done. And then this shorty over here, I don't know, like maybe 6 inches or so. I'll split that thing up too. I like those little short ones like that for my wood stove at home because I can stick them in front to back. Because I only have 10, 12 inches from the front of the stove to the back of the stove width-wise. Or if I side load my stove, I can put almost like a 20-inch or maybe even a little bit longer if I angle it. But if I would load it from the front, it's not real deep from front to back. So having little chunks like that, you know, I have to split them very small either because they're pretty short. But yeah, that will be all mine. I'll make sure that ends up in my firewood bag for at home. I do want to thank everyone for stopping in today, watching me get my saw ready, except for sharpening it, which I should have done. But you live and you learn. Still got the job done. I'll go home now. I'll get it sharpened. The way I sharpen is with a Dremel. If you ever watched Chris in the wood yard, Chris from in the wood yard, that's exactly how I do it. I just use one of those Dremel bits and just grind them up. And it's fast, it's efficient, and you don't have to take the chain off of the saw. It's a pretty nice system, and it sharpens it up pretty good. I mean, obviously, if Chris is doing it, it works okay. But I want to thank you for stopping in today, and until next time, be safe, brothers and sisters.